It's a Done Deal has now sprinted up on the outside. Boban starting to chase him, and then came Moriarty. It's a Done Deal in front. Boban is looking a big threat though. Boban's raced up on the outside. He's taken the lead from It's a Done Deal, and the band's back together. Schofield and Boban. They beat It's a Done Deal.
G'day punters, welcome to the Deep Dive, the show that takes the grouse of the Betfair live wagering data from the weekend and the best and worst of the puntingform.com.au figures. We'll get to that a little bit later, but we have to open the show. We're welcoming a legend of Sydney racing to the mailbag. He'll be here to help us provide Metro trial reports for Sydney. He'll also be featuring on our new Sydney preview show. He's Mark Shean. He really needs no introduction, but I'm a bit late for that. Mark, it's welcome to the mailbag. I hope and expect that our audience will know who you are, but for anyone who doesn't, can you just give us a rundown of your racing story to begin with?
Well, I come from a racing family. My grandfather was a pretty famous jockey, won a Melbourne Cup. His brother had Neville Selwood and George Moore apprenticed to him, so had a bit of royalty there in the racing background. Started calling races when I was a kid, called in the bush when I was 16, then did a bit of work for Bob Charlie, Mark Reed, and got into the punting side of things, did a bit of breeding and punting as well. So, yeah, just stayed in the racing game all my life and enjoyed backing a winner, trying to find a winner. So thanks very much for adding me to the show as well.
I think that's a really good point, actually. I mean, out of a lot of the race callers over the years, certainly when, I guess, myself and probably Dicko as well, when we were getting into the racing game, you were the number one caller in Australia and then also Sydney. But the main point of difference is that you were that form analyst and a punter as well. I guess, how have you been keeping yourself busy of late?
Yeah, just doing some punting and going to the races, having a look at them and trying to back a winner, basically. So not much different to anyone else, I suppose.
Sounds
so
good.
Mark's a bit of a horse watcher, a bit like myself and Rob and Pete. How's it been with the COVID restrictions easing? Did it affect your gambling when they happened? Like because of the yard focus for yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I certainly do like the confidence of looking at a horse. I'm just used to that sort of stuff, going to the races and looking at them and seeing if something's improved or gone backwards. So, yeah, it certainly was a hindrance, and it has been good to get back to the races and at least have a look at them, especially now that the better horses are coming back as well. But a lot of people are not turned on by that. A lot of people stay at home, just run their own race, but that's what I'm used to.
Okay, we must talk about the Sydney tracks, the metropolitan tracks in particular. Randwick's the main culprit of late. The track hasn't seen better than a heavy track since, well, I can't even remember. It's probably been about 6 months or so. What's your thoughts on how the current state of the track is? And really, do you think the Sydney administration cares for the most part?
Collectively, I think Sydney tracks are in a bad state at the moment. The point is that Canterbury was probably our best wet weather track, and it's been dead set rooted for 10 months. It can't handle the rain like it used to. The bias there at Canterbury is horrific. It's just been on pace, and then the last meeting it just turned completely, and then you couldn't win on the rail. So it just reverted in one meeting, something different. For 10 months they've been winning on the rail, then on the outside fence the last meeting. Warwick Farm, you hadn't won on the rail on a heavy track for 15 years, and then you get there Wednesday, every leader wins. So it's just diabolic. It's doing your head in.
Well, that was the Emeralds Day. Well, that was doing my head in.
Then Warwick Farm on last Wednesday, every leader on the fence wins, and dead set they haven't won on the rail there for 15 years when it's heavy.
Okay, well, someone's responsible for the state of the tracks. There's been 2 upgrades in the last 15 years. The AJC had a big go when a certain people's trainer was in charge, maybe operations manager on a big salary. I think he tendered it out, and they dug up all the sand. And it's been... Yeah,
well, that track had a big sand base, and I think they changed the base dramatically, and Randwick has suffered because of it. But the other tracks as well, there's been hardly any revision done to Warwick Farm in years. I think they're more interested in catering at the races than they are in actually the racing product.
Well, I think that's indicative of that is like I got excited last night because we got Mark Shean on the mailbag. Like, who would ever have thought that? And I started watching a few Boban replays because Boban being my favourite horse, and you roared him home just about every time I backed him. He won the Chipping Norton at Warwick Farm.
Yeah, well, you're not allowed to race there on a Saturday. At Canterbury or Warwick Farm, not allowed to race there. You're only allowed to race at Randwick and Rhodes Hill. Apparently, punters don't like to bet there, but who really wants to bet at the Swamp at the moment?
The Swamp. Well, what's the line on Randwick actually getting out of the heavy range by one of my favourite meetings of the year, the former Warwick Stakes, now the Wink Stakes, which we get a few more punters through the door. It's being called the Wink Stakes. What's the line of it actually getting out of a heavy range with the data, as opposed to what they say it's going to be?
Oh, I don't know, Rob. Look, it's going to take a long time before this track dries out. It's just waterlogged at the moment. We have had a lot of rain. Look, Warragamba Dam's up to 100%. It was 40% 3 months ago. So, look, we have had a lot of rain, but, you know, I lived across the road from Randwick when the water was over the running rail back in the 80s, and they raced the next week and Strawberry Road won on the fence. So you couldn't see that now. They wouldn't race for 3 months if they got that same amount of water.
Yeah. I was talking to a prominent Sydney trainer on Saturday, you know, as I do, and
Not to be named.
Yeah, not to be named. And we were reminiscing about the time that Randwick, I think it was before a Doncaster, I was back and bought a Rebel in some race in maybe the Galaxy, and he was a swimmer, and we had like an inch of rain, and then by race 2, we're up to a 5.
Yeah.
I think this was just before that AJC, just before that AJC upgrade. I think it was the last meeting before that.
Anyway, we're not going to cure it in a short time. We need a lot of dry weather and probably a revision of how they water the track through the dry period as well.
Well, that's what I'm going to say, and that's what I was discussing with this well-known trainer. The watering of the tracks in summer for the horses' legs, I think that's a reason that these tracks won't dry out.
Yeah, they're perennially wet, and then when we get the rain, they're rooted. So, as I said, we just need a lot of dry weather in the next couple of months.
Okay, we'll start to have a look at what happened there on Saturday. And I guess a lot of the noise initially was about that Boom horse in North Pacific. It's recorded the 6th best figure on the day, 6.1 lengths above the puntingform.com.au all average benchmark. Rob Scurry, I'll start with yourself. What sort of type is this horse?
What sort of type is he? Had me thinking of Lonhro, actually, as a young horse. He's a similar colour, and he's also, Lonhro had one of the best attitudes I've ever seen in a horse parade, and this horse has got a really great attitude, really relaxed, a bit different to the sprint winner from last week, who was a bit more, more of a sprinter, a bit more bouncy, the Kira Ma horse. Someone help me out. What's it called?
Anders.
Yeah. Anders. Yeah, this guy looks more like Golden Rose, 1400, 1600, could be a Caulfield Guineas horse. I see the tab has wound him in for the Golden Rose into 350.
Please don't mention the tab again on the show, Rob. Mark, what do you think of him as a type?
Well, I wouldn't be taking 350, I know that. Look, he's a nice type, but he's bashed up a pretty poor field here. He beat Bazooka, who'd been tailed off twice against older horses in his last 2 starts. So, look, we got Rothfire, Farnham, King's Legacy, Datland, Peltzer all to come back yet. That's poison odds to me.
The biggest figure on the card was Fanciful Dream in race 6, recording a figure of 10.2 lengths above on the puntingform.com.au benchmark, but it was probably more a sign of the runner-up. A theories returned in really good order. Should it have won, Mark Shean? I'll throw to you. Your thoughts on race 6 there on Saturday?
Yeah, well, the stewards were a little bit critical of James, it's right, but I think the horse jumped too well for its own good. I think he came out and he necked it straight away to try and find cover, and those 2 horses kicked up. In hindsight, he probably should have gone forward, but they were winning on the outside fence anyway. So if you're going to come across and sit 2 or 3 horses closer into the rail, you're going to head out wider later on anyway. So I think it was just a victim of circumstances. I know it looks ordinary. You trapped 5 wide in a field of 5, but probably should have won, but I don't think he could have done much else.
Rob, we both backed Fanciful Dream last start, and then obviously followed up on Saturday.
We both followed up. I think Pistol Pete might have tapped out.
No, I've been maintaining a really good strike rate with horses that I've backed last start and then they come out and win. So I'm learning my lesson slowly. Keep following them, Rob. Well done picking the eyes out of it. But as you said, you probably got a little bit lucky on the day.
Oh, a little bit. And I kind of went against my own kind of, mounting yard vibe. A theory came back superb. Really strengthened up. It's a horse I had a pretty good line on, and I was pretty keen to take on as a 2-year-old. But as a 3-year-old, this had really come back really well. And you expect James to win the race. I think it's going to go really well this prep.
Okay, the other race we need to talk about is Masked Crusader getting rolled as a short favourite, but it does look like the horse has returned in some pretty good order. It's recorded some massive splits off a very slow tempo, but Varda was too good on the day. Rob, how did they look in the yard?
Oh, this is one of the this is why I be a mounting yard watcher, I guess. Just couldn't have Masked Crusader. Couldn't win first up. Looked underdone. If I owned it, I wouldn't have been running it on that track. It's woolly in the coat. He looked only at 85%, whereas Varda, she's just looked fantastic all prep. She's like a prototype wet track type, but she's always had good condition on her, and she's been winning and she's been maintaining that condition. And I thought the market got this wrong. I thought Varda, was the one to beat, and turned out I was right.
Mark, were you betting or laying in this race?
I was on the winner, luckily. I'm with Rob there. Certainly that horse paraded a bit woolly in the coat, and he was quite fresh. He'd only had one very soft trial, so the slow tempo was against him as well. He also had blood in one nostril coming back as well, reading the steward's report. So he's got a gallop in front of the steward. So maybe knocked his head in the barrier there as well. So I think all in all, it was a forgive run. I think he'll be much better when he gets over further.
Well, I think hearing all of that, this is a horse you can sort of stamp to follow. It's run a peak figure for its career.
Oh, he's a group horse for sure.
With a lot against it. This sounds pretty impressive with a really dominant SP profile.
He walks like a really good horse, the second horse. But, who knows what the heavy 10 first up when you're 85% fit, what happens?
Yep.
Hope that blood in the nostrils just a bang in the head, as Mark said.
I think they did a scope after the race. They did a scope and he was clean, so he's just banged his head.
That's good.
Rob, I'll start with yourself. A horse to follow out of the meeting, and if you've got a rider to follow as well, feel free to throw them out. We're looking at the start of spring and who we can actually stamp as someone in form or potentially to follow.
Oh, look, I want to keep following Tommy Sherry on these wet tracks. A 3 kilo claimer in town. Maybe you won't get too many rides on a Saturday, but I think he's going to ride a lot of winners. And Masked Crusader, obviously, is a really classy horse. And wherever Varda goes, if she keeps getting wet tracks, she'll keep raising the bar if she keeps parading like she is.
Mark Shean, same question. Any horse to follow? And potentially, has there been maybe one trialer that's really taken your eye over the last couple of weeks that you can throw out there for some of the punters?
I thought it was called I Am Superman. Like, he has trialled on synthetic tracks lately, but he really has caught my eye in the last couple of weeks at the trials. So it's a bit disappointing when he had a couple of runs here last preparation, but he looks to be putting it all together. We'll see him on Saturday, so he could be an improver. Masked Crusader. I think also, too, the first winner, coming off a very slow tempo there, but Tess got its own way in front. She trialled like a bomb coming into that, so I think she's one to follow as well.
Can I just say, I Am Superman, I Am Pretty Boy. That's a horse that sucked me in last time around. Does parade like a wait for age type, Mark. Trials well. Jury's out. I might, what to do with him? It's cost me that horse.
Most horses with ability cost you because you just back them regardless.
All right, it's been a pleasure to welcome officially Mark Shean to the Mailbag family. I can't wait to see what the trial reports bring. We've seen Nick Noonan's in Victoria go really strong, just leading back and towards the spring races coming up. And Mark, it's a pleasure to have you on board, and I'm sure there'll be a number of people appreciative of your intel over the coming weeks. But officially, welcome to the Mailbag.
Thanks, Pete. Hope we can find some winners, and thanks very much.
No worries. We'll have Mark, Pete, and potentially another bloke on this Thursday to preview the big meeting on Saturday in Sydney as well.
Dicko's Turtle Award. We still haven't got a name for it, but the Speed Police getting him state by state. Dicko, the slowest leaders.
Well, the award is a Victorian award.
Yep.
So D Lane, believe it or not, punters. I thought D done moral after race one, a bit like Flemington. Then I thought Mellum, half a chance on Think We're Due. God bless him. We'll get to that later. And then I thought Willow on Morrissey. Surely, that's a horse that couldn't handle the early tempo and was snicked to last 2 starts ago. So for it to lead, they must have gone slow. But no, D Lane went 0.7 above, which is incredibly slow for a horse of rulership's caliber. He did it on rulership. So he wins the award. He will be getting a little tiny tortoise statue, smoking a cigar, the pipe. Because he was smoking the pipe on rulership. D Dunn probably asleep next to him on ranting, which probably wasn't good for any of us. Anyway, A. Pattis, curls. Not sure who that is, but they went 3.8 below the all average there at Eagle Farm and took the title in Queensland. Thoughts?
No,
No? Okay.
I don't have any thoughts.
T. Sherry was the slowest at Randwick, an amazing 8.7 below the all average. That's
Scurry's, man.
That's real slow. That's really, really slow. But the winner this week from around Australia at the Metro tracks on the Saturday is Pete's mate, S. McGruddy.
Shooter.
He went 15, 15.7 below the all average benchmark to the 600. That is outstanding riding. I don't know why this meeting wasn't encouraged to come along with Pike and isolate for the 14 days required and ride in Victoria. If you want to, Shooter, the Victorian Stewards would love to have you, because that is some seriously slow riding to the 600. Well done. You win this week's title.
You know what the best part is? Shooter actually rode 2 winners on the card.
He won on this horse. He won on the horse that he went 15.7 slow.
He also rode the fastest lead time of the meeting when he went 6.1 lengths fast on Saracino. So he's won 2 races on the card and he's gone the fastest and the slowest of the day leading to the 600. It's just outstanding.
I'm not sure if we're saying he's a genius or he can't count. Could be one or the other.
I think he summed up Saracino. We'll get to that later in the day. I think that was a perfectly summed up race. Fire Goddess, I just don't think any of those horses are any good. So whoever was out in front was more than likely going to win. So anyway, we'll push on.
Let's head to Queensland, Pete. Let's fire up curls.
Eagle Farm race 2. We saw Kisugano win impressively. Went 7.3 above on the all average benchmark. Was very hard to load. Curls, how good could she be?
Well, that was a great example on Saturday of letting fast horses run fast.
Moods.
She took a sit on this horse the start before and got beat as favourite in a four-way finish, bunch finish. So I took a position against this horse, but she got up to her old trick. She was very difficult to load. I was having a bit of a chuckle pre-race as it was trying to load. They had a stallion chain on it. So that's that chain that goes around its, around its mouth, nose area. And every time she wouldn't load, the gate man was like yanking on the chain or just fizzing her up even more. And I didn't think she was going to go in. And then they give her one more try with the jock got back on and she loaded and then pressed the button early and sent this horse straight to the front. And there was just no catching it. It was pretty impressive. We were on Tycoon Evie, who was no match. And as the day wore on, we found that both the second horse, Tycoon Evie, Mashani Miss and Tycoon Evie went to the line together. Mashani Miss just got second. Both of those horses had run a quicker time than the Open 1200 on the day, than the winner of the Open 1200 and race 6, that's the 3-year-old Open race.
So are you going to give them more credit because of that, or are you just sort of grayed up by that?
There was a shower of rain after race 5, so I it's not sure how much of an impact that would have had on the times that the others ran. But they still went out faster than average in both of those races in race 6 and 7. And, the winners got home, in pretty reasonable time as well. So I think the track must have held up. Yeah, grade up probably. but we'll just take the ratings on face value there, I think, and I'll have to do the replays again just to see how much difference there was in kickback, if you can see anything visible, to either give those runners in race 6 onwards a tick or just mark down the other ones. But look, she was good. There was talk about where she goes next. Michael Nolan's sort of said that Sydney was potentially on the radar, but but just the way she is with her manners, she might be better off going to the paddock, giving her a little bit more time to mature and coming back for a summer carnival, which she'll be definitely a leading contender. And I'd like to see her go again with Rothfire. She's the only horse that's beaten Rothfire, who's the Queensland horse that's gone to Sydney. She's the only horse that's knocked it off. And on what we saw on Saturday, I'd love to see them, ripping at each other at 1,200. It'd be a race.
All right. Well, look, Curls, was there anything else that you can take out of the meeting? We won't spend too much time on Eagle Farm because we want to get to Rorts and Stings for the week. But do you have anything else that you're following from Eagle Farm?
Oh, look, not really. Nothing in particular. There was a couple of surprise results that caught me. They were too good for me. The money for Joymaker in the first race was quite strong, and it come out and produced a very good win. Race just panned out for it nicely. Junction was a surprise winner in race 7. First up, it's come back in good order. It's certainly one you could follow through its preparation, like to come back and for a mile, the 1,800 metre horse to come back and beat those open class sprinters first up 1,200 was a good effort. So I think going forward, Junction could be the one. He's only a lowly, well, when I say lowly rated, he's like a mid-70 rated horse. So he winning an open here, he'll be able to win again in town as he gets through his prep.
All right, Curly. The hottest go of the weekend. Did we see it at Toowoomba, and did we back it?
Look, I don't know whether we should have a drum roll here, but I'm gonna call it. I want to see it here.
Hey, that stinger!
The sting.
Woo!
The sting was in. Look, the sting was in here. Look, let's talk about the winner first, and then we can talk about why the race made headlines. Now, this winner had shown very nice ability in a couple of jump outs. Its most previous jump out was over 925. It wore heavy shoes that day, and it accounted for a horse called Simply Fly, who was a debut winner, and then ran on Saturday at Eagle Farm and ran a really credible race. It sort of finished 5th or 6th, just behind them, half held up. Nice type. So this Mashani Appeal handled it quite comfortably, showed gate speed. So obviously goes to a benchmark race in Toowoomba, a 3-year-old benchmark race as a first starter, drew the gate. Madeline Wishart was on. She takes a couple of kilos off, so it had no weight. So it was pretty clear what the intention was going to be there, straight to the front.
Handlebars down, Pistol Pete style.
Yeah.
Like a meth head stole a motorbike.
It's done a good job to win. Look, I actually at the time, we had our biggest bet of the day for the mailbag was on this horse.
Which is why, punters, if you haven't, I don't know if there's anyone left who hasn't, but you need to head to themailbag.com.au and get the full Curly, get the Curly service. This man bets relentlessly. And now at the mailbag, you can basically bet from like Saturday at 11 a.m. till like 11 p.m. And you can probably be on the overs unders in the footy game that night too. Both codes. There's heaps of options, but what time of night was this? Because we got one like Pete hit one about 7:30, like mid dinner. Like Saturday night when you're a mailbag in the army, the phone's got to be at the dinner table. The phone's banned in our house at the dinner table, but on Saturday nights they know. She knows. It's Belmont and now it's Toowoomba.
Yeah, so this was our biggest bet for the day. We had to be on it. It was anyway. So it's led and got the job done. Now at the time, I was far too busy patting myself on the back to concern myself with what happened in the run.
Which is a great insight to how punting works. All you're going is, this should lead, pinged, roll, and then all you're doing is watching her action. That horse is actually whatever horse you're on that's leading, and you're quickly just checking for anything that's absolutely bolting. Nothing sweet. And then you're just going, hold on.
The only horse I was concerned about pre-race was the Toppy, who was unbeaten off 2 800-metre runs. And I sort of had a quick scan back at the 400 like before the corner, and it was like green. It was running in and out. It was off the bid. Couldn't possibly beat us. Anyway, and what ensued after that was I think it was, I didn't realise until Sunday morning I got a message saying, there's a stewards. I hadn't read the stewards report Sunday morning. I went straight for the Shiraz after that thing led all the way. Anyway, so there's a stewards report. So in the stewards report, there's a running and handling charge levelled at Isabella Rab-Jones. Who was the rider of the stablemate and the subsequent third place getter. Now, this is the third running and handling charge levelled at a rider at Toowoomba in 3 weeks, so 3 in a row. So the stewards are up and about up here. They've been reading. They must be reading the forum on punters.com and the feedback on some of those tweets. Some of the feedback. Oh, who'd bet in Toowoomba? It's full of rorts and stings. And I said, well, why wouldn't you bet in Toowoomba? Anyway, so I've gone back and watched the replay, and like I'd be lying if I didn't say the stablemate should have pissed him. It was as bad a ride as you'll see. Now this is I've got to attempt this.
It was kind of sweet until the mid-race stick was just like, oh.
Well, look. So for those that don't follow, I don't think many people would follow. Racing on the Darling Downs as closely as I do. But, I don't think it's a rort because there's no way you would put a young, inexperienced 3-kilo female apprentice on and say, give this one a run in a 4-horse field. If you go back and have a look at her rides at the meeting and just the way she rides in general, she's still learning her craft. When she's up on speed, either leading or outside the leader, she can sit on them and they just run the same speed, and she does struggle to pull the stick, etc. Back in the field when there's a little bit of traffic and a little bit of how you go, and the quality horses that you're riding on up in Toowoomba, the ones that are back in the field are particularly slow and particularly bad mannered most of the time. So it would get a bit hairy out there, and she's a young jockey coming through that would sort of err on the side of caution and grab hold rather than push through a gap. So if you go back and watch a few of her rides, what was tossed up there wasn't anything new, but it just added to the theatre of launching an unseen first starter and the winner. But and I think the Queensland stewards have got a role to play here. We've got a shortage of jockeys in Queensland, so we've got these inexperienced kids getting rides at tab meetings, where 3 years ago, they'd have to go and ride 30 winners in the bush at the non-tabs, before they get to the provincials where there's more eyes on them, obviously with betting and stuff. Like young girls had, she rode a winner last Saturday night on a very short price favourite that led and won. And before that, her winners were at Esk, Chinchilla and Bundaberg, in the last 3 or 4 months. So these things are going to happen. I think it's part of doing the form up here. If you're going to back one of these young apprentices coming through, you've got to make sure they're on front runners, because steering them through a field is not their strong point just yet. But to answer the question, mate, definitely Sting, well executed, starting a Maidner in a benchmark race and getting the cash. So well done.
Yeah,
well done to you for finding it. It's not a Sting if you're on.
Well, if we weren't on it would have been a Rort.
Yeah, but you found it and you've articulated why it was made a lot of sense to you.
Well, look, like I said in that jump out, on the jump outs, it beat a horse that's, it's already won a maiden in good time, and, it was the right bet in that race so what, we've been on a couple of jump out horses that have got beat over the weekend, where we had one bet at the Moonee Valley of the North. I punch myself in the face every time I hear that. We had one bet at Kilcoy yesterday. This is Rort. The 2 favourites have missed the kick. We're on the 3rd favourite. Only bet on the day. First up hasn't been seen at the trials. And somehow the favourite gets a miracle run through on that absolute dog leg home turn that they say that looks like the Moonee Valley of the North. It does me brain in. The favourite's got a complete saloon passage through and knocked us off on the line.
Oh, yeah.
It's $12 plus in run as well, because I took some. Just how it works. Just how it works.
I love
We'll
betting.
leave Queensland. We'll leave Queensland for now.
I just
It's
want to
been-
articulate it just again. My advice is obviously sign up and get Curly's stuff, but just like the bets will come through. The best way to handle it is just to put them on and forget about them, and then at the end of the day, the next morning, check your balance, check your bet history. It's easier if you don't watch it.
No one deserves to watch it. But you don't bet it and watch it. Like, you're not that bad a person. You don't deserve that pain.
You're paying.
Some people-
That's
some
part
people
of
argue
the
that
service. You don't need to watch any replays, anything. He'll do all the work for you. I'll tell you what to do.
Yeah.
Just bet. And even listening to it's a lot better than watching it because they don't talk about the sort of the shit that's going on in the race. But yeah, watching it, oh, fuck.
Okay, let's head to Caulfield. It was a pretty decent day. I think the track played as well as it probably can do at the moment.
It played as Caulfield does and should. It wasn't overly biased. There weren't so many such lanes. You certainly didn't want to be rear, settling in the back third of the field. But that's Caulfield.
Yeah, exactly. But for yourself, Dickens, the captain, winning day, winning week. 17 units out, 45 plus back, quite a few seconds. We've set up a spring fling for punters with yourself. So for anyone wanting to spend the next few months in the company of the captain, Jack Dickens, you can be taken care of until Zipping Classic Day and get everything that's going through his brain. So strap yourself in, get ready for a pretty decent ride. Dicko, the week for yourself, it looks like you're back.
Yeah, well, I'm comfortable and confident with how we're seeing it and how we're betting it. Like we talked about last week, Flemington, I was pretty happy with most of the decisions I made. Like we got knocked off at Flemington, and not to harp on about it, but by a horse called Coming Around, who was well and truly fairly squarely beaten by More Than Exceed at Swan Hill. More Than Exceed went to Morphettville on Saturday and went like a complete busted, assisted by one of the worst rides of all time by Kayla Crowther. That's in the Spring Stakes. Go and watch it. Imagine letting a $80 shot cross here in the coffin, and then all of a sudden you're at the back of the surf, you're last on the corner. Not sweet, Kayla. Really poor ride. But that form line, More Than Exceed raced about to its level, where we got in the snuff last week by this Coming Around, proving 12 lengths. Wednesday was a great day at Sandown to finally land a few blows in a row. And to be honest, I'm half cut about Saturday. Like I think it was like it's north of 30 units around second, and now doing the tapes and looking at the punting form data, Dwayne Dunn and D Lane have gone the slowest of every race on Saturday on ranting and rulership. Who, like, you can well and truly make a case that they might be the 2 or 3 of the most exciting horses to come out of the meeting. Like rulership might improve to be a really dynamic 3-year-old, and they've just dampened their ability by going so fucking slow and allowed Mellum to sit 3 wide, no cover cast on our playboy who looks a beast to build into the race and knock off ranting. But every time that horse with momentum will finish off better than the horse that's not going as fast as the other horse. Obviously, they kind of hold their line once they sort of level up to the same speed. He's sitting on it. Matt Hill called it. He's sitting on this thing. And in hindsight, if you're sitting on this thing and they've gone real quick, great ride. You're sitting on this thing and they've gone really slow, you've missed your go. You've missed the mark there to take off. And your horse, which you declared showmanship, I hate it, and I hate Pike. No, I don't. I don't hate Pike. But we were on. What was the horse we were on?
The runner-up.
Travie, my friend, and a good big bet at it. And his showmanship doesn't run out of this world. Do something that no horse has done all day at Caulfield and win from worse than midfield. That's another 15 units on top of 45 for the week. And we also back Sir Coney, who went a little bit too slow as well. But yeah, happy, keen. It's getting a lot easier with the better horses. I think a lot of the sort of track problems have been worked through internally without any sort of public knowledge, but they're working at it. Caulfield raced a lot better than it has.
Yeah.
and it's had a worse or no better lead up weather-wise. So they're working on things that are making the tracks race fairer, which is therefore a bit easier to bet.
We'll start off with the PB Lawrence. It was the feature on the card. There was 2 horses on Betfair where the tote beat the Betfair starting price. They were Savatiano and Kingsville Dream. You know, the classic market support was pretty strong late there on the winner. And Kingsville Dream, well, obviously you should probably take it from here.
We're back Kingsville Dream and Ciurleo to beat Savatiano. And we backed Cascadian, who ran 4. So we were on 2nd, 3rd, and 4th at like an average SP of like $15. Even though it was a late mail stuff, we still knocked off like huge over Ciurleo. They went off late. I don't know what to do. Like Mark Zara and Jay Carr. Well, Jay Mott's going to go in later on in the show, and maybe he'll start riding out of his skin. But Mark Zara is best, is as good as anyone's, and he's riding outstanding. His ride on Viridine was out of this world, and his ride on Savatiano was just like perfection. And we've lost in a photo to it. That's how sick this game can be. Jay Carr's ride on Propel was out of this world good. Don't know what else to say about that. Kingsville Dream was enormous, went enormous, got through the line beautifully, and here we go, punters, for the, I don't know what we want to call this, like the extract of the week. You want to read it down to us, Peter? Because get this, just take your time. I'm going to speak slowly before Pete reads it out word for word. But the stewards have actually given D Lane some questioning and some advice about how he rode this particular pony, Kingsville Dream. Does this not open up the biggest ever can of worms for tactics and decisions on horses going 60 k's an hour? And I think they're actually like wrong in this case. I think his ride is really, really good, John McNeil. But stewards, if you want to persist with questioning tactics and rides, Jack at themailbag.com.au. I will give you feedback instantly after the races. I'm sitting here, got nothing else to do. I'm reviewing them as I go. I love where you're headed with this. This is a great initiative, and I'm sure you've got a budget there allocated for integrity. And if you haven't, well, we need more. Email me. I'll get you a quote. Just outline in dot points, please, what you'd like in the reporting and how quickly it needs to be in by. Pete, steward's report for that particular race, please.
Kingsville Dream. Stewards question Jai McNeil as to why approaching the 400 metres he chose not to follow Savatiano but rather shift out to be behind Streets of Avalon and Arcadia Queen before then steadying in across the heels of Arcadia Queen near the 300 metre mark. Jai McNeil explained that at the time he felt as though Mystic Journey racing to his outside was giving ground and he could continue out with free running to the outside of Streets of Avalon, which was his preferred section of the track. He added that in hindsight and after viewing the patrol video with stewards, his best option was to follow Savatiano through.
In hindsight, he agreed with the stewards just to make them go away. Basically, what I think happened is Mark Zara rode the perfect race and wasn't going to give up his spot till he had to. Jai read that, and Jai, being a good young jockey, thought if I can level up to Savatiano with 200 metres to go, I think I'll run past him because I'm on Kingsville Dream, who runs in Cox Plates.
And a trial outstanding.
And then the gap didn't come, so he went back to the inside, which was probably the better ground anyway, actually, Jai.
Look, as long as they're consistent, I think that's probably the main thing, isn't it? That's the general...
There is no way on earth they can be consistent with this type of questioning, but this type of questioning is outstanding and should be continued. Again, I won't charge much. We can do it all around Australia for you. This is great. This is great. Just because they question someone doesn't mean they've done anything wrong. And all this does is just give the punter confidence that they're looking.
Yep.
This is outstanding. But like, I don't understand. Like, if I was Jai, I'd be half blown up because if you go to race 6, Zooming Zebra jumped away awkwardly, so it's half missed the start. It doesn't have a lot of speed anyway. Race 5 wide without cover. Didn't want to question J Mott about that decision.
There was no question for that.
Let's play on, mate. Like this, the shit that doesn't get questioned. So I think what the answer is the stewards need more help, and we want to be the people to help you. So please get in touch, jack@themailbag.com.au. Peter, what else should we touch on?
Well, I was going to say, while we're talking about stewards, I mean, we have to talk about the noise that came out of Adelaide with the whip protest. And I think I think we can just put it to bed, and we don't need to talk about there being a potential overturning of the rule from any stage here on. It's just complete noise. It's a waste of time. The rule is not there for punters. It's not there for connections. It's basically there to say, look, we do recognise that the whip is a bad image, but we're not going to do anything about it. Can we just stop the debate? Because it's just a waste of everyone's time watching replays over and over again of one horse that's been whipped and trying to count how many times when we've got one angle of footage. It's not going to happen.
I'd take the other view. The rule is there to appease people who will never be appeased.
Yeah.
The rule, therefore, now creates situations where, as a punter, you might be on the second horse that isn't overwhipped, and there is a horse that is overwhipped. So you'll have a jockey who's following the rules, which is to the detriment of your bet. This is a sport funded by wagering, and the rule creates a grey area for riders, and there's enough pressure on them already. The rule's wrong, and the enforcement of it is entirely, absolutely 100% gutless.
Jeez,
and to appease these people who you'll never appease, it shows that the complete and utter lack of leadership within the racing industry. Jockeys wear metal things on the back of their heels that they dig into a horse's ribs whilst it's running. I'm not that sick. Peter might be more the person to answer this, but I'd rather get whipped on the arse with a big whip than have like Curly sit on me and dig spurs into my ribs. I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but to just this ignorance and just pretending that it doesn't exist. Where will it stop? Because as soon as someone outside the bubble talks about spurs.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, hey, because you talk about appeasing the people that can't be appeased. A whip rule has no impact on the appeasement of anti-racing folk. Right?
Yeah.
So we still force horses, and I'm going to I'll play devil's advocate a little bit here. We still force horses to jump over hurdles when they're tired at the end of 4,000 metres.
Yeah.
And we persuade them with spurs and a stick, right? It's almost like this rule has been brought in to appease the decision makers so they can pat themselves on the back to say that they've done something.
Exactly, that's exactly what it is.
It's not. This does nothing for the image of racing at all. I mean, punters that are sitting in the TAB doing their ass day in, day out. You go into any TAB and you'll see the usual suspects that are in there doing their complete ass on a daily basis, funding the sport, and they'll be like, hit the effing thing. They want to see the jockey lift it and bash it to the line. You know, they're the people that are funding the sport, and that's what they're wanting. The rest of us that follow, and you've got guys that follow racing regular basis that are just completely, confused and done to death with the whip rule, and it's just now irrelevant. So the whip rules are relevant to the punting public. Like Pistol said,
and it just makes the race, it makes the sport harder to bet on. Like we got done a month or two ago we back Shot of Irish, and Plain CL dead heated with us, and it was overwhipped.
Yeah,
it just leaves a foul taste in my mouth. If I'm watching certain riders ride, I don't want them to whip the horse because I believe they get more out of it hands and heels. It's just a stupid rule that creates, like what Curly was just talking about how hard it is for an apprentice to ride at fucking Toowoomba. Imagine being an apprentice riding at Caulfield on Saturday.
And you've got to count.
And now they've got to try and count. Like, go have a look at the puntingform.com.au benchmark data for how fast they go to 600. I don't think counting's like a proper strength of theirs. And now we're getting them to count how many times they crack a horse on the arse. It's stupid.
And we're all smart. We're all intelligent enough to know that we forgive jockeys for zigging when they should have zagged, at the 300 because they're doing 60 k's an hour and they've got to make a decision one way or another. Difficult. They're trying to steer one They're trying to get it in the right place at the right time, and then at the same time trying to count when they pull the stick. It's just
I know. And Jai's missed a great opportunity to say, I'm really sorry. I was counting how many times I'd hit the horse.
Yeah. I've seen the new penalties come through last week, or for this season, whenever it was a week or so ago. So, obviously it's going to be playing on their mind. They're going to be enforced, and the jockeys are the only one that pays for this whip fine.
Oh, but it's just impossible for them. If I was running along, I wouldn't be able to count how many times I've done anything.
I'm just hoping my heart's still beating while I'm running.
I've been for a run since like the pre-bulldozer. Anyway, the rule's a joke. Don't get upset when they don't uphold a protest. But the best part is eventually they will. And it'll just be more chaos.
Surely not.
They will at some point. Anyway.
Yeah.
What's next, Peter?
Let's round off with Caulfield. Juniper is back, you say?
Yeah. What a big effort, big performance. It follows showmanship. You're sort of talking showmanship's a really proper group horse. I think Juniper's effort first up was enormous. I think it's one of the main horses to follow outside the obvious from Caulfield on Saturday. I really liked how it got through its work. It was beautiful, beautiful return.
You mentioned our Playboy earlier. How good can he be, and why no bet from you?
I really dragged myself up here. I've started focusing a little bit more on pricing. I had it as an overlay. I'm not sharing those prices; they're just mine. But I looked at it, and I had a note on the horse that it was backed on Wednesday night or Thursday morning in a sort of pattern. Like Curly, you'd get this in a pattern that it's like someone in the stable or something backed it, just sort of jumped off the cliff, then leveled back out again. And I noted that, so I was like, someone thinks this horse is a big player here. So I had an overlay and that note, and then when it sort of pissed in, I was filthy on myself because that's racing. I think the win was full of merit, but slightly blessed by race shape. It was the horse that had the most momentum, but then its last 100 metres was really strong. So I think you can follow the horse with confidence. I think you can forgive ranting and follow it too. And rulership's a big sort of guess here. I don't know what they'll do with it. It was so heavily backed and blessed in run to an extent. Unbelievable. And I think Hydro Star, it wasn't a great ride, but it wasn't it was entitled to finish off better than it did. The market hated it though. Well done to Jackson Olin. Yeah, fuck me, that was courageous. I reckon he put up 340 on the fair when it was 280 on the plastics. It's SP'd like $6, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Fucking hell,
pills out. And he nailed it.
He's got good ability, the boy.
Yeah, considering he's 2021. I think when we were 2021 and punting, it would have been an embarrassment to compare us to where Jacko is. He is absolutely dead set 15 to 20 lengths in front of us.
And he's almost level pegging with the bank size by the amount of liquidity. Yeah. He's laying for. Well done.
All right, Dicko. PB Lawrence, wash up. Who are you following out of this race?
Which race? Was that the Arcadia Queen one?
Yep. There was other horses in it as well. Sabatino won the race.
Well, I think Kingswell Dream and Cascadian, the two best runs in the race, particularly Cascadian. Real sneaky ride from Ollie, but the horse had no speed, and as we said, nothing worse than midfield's won all day. It's flown home in a good race. Streets of Avalon, real plain. Mystic Journey, I think you were right with it, Pete, and I'll be against it again. It was just too plain the last little bit to sort of stamp. Regal Power and Arcadia Queen both would have come back with sore necks. They were, when I talk about a horse being snicked, watch what D-Lane did to Arcadia Queen. That's exactly what I think snicked is. It's a severe slowing of the pony whilst the pony's still exerting the same amount of energy. So it's covering actually less ground, but burning the same amount of fuel. So you can't. Forgive, Forget, Arcadia Queen, and Regal Power. I thought they're both pass marks. Sir Coney's probably that was its birthday. Savatiano, good, but right of the race. I think Cascadian's the run of the race just in front of Kingswood Dream.
And then the Regal Roller, the listed race, Viridine defeated Age of Chivalry, She Shall Fly, Be Good to Your Mother. Are you following anything going out of this race?
Well, Reykjavik just ignoring it ran. And they've gone too slow for a lot of these horses. I think Be Good to Your Mother, you can forgive, went way too slow. We've seen this horse just relish a good early tempo. Didn't get it again. Bumper Blast, very plain, off it. Weird prep, like gutsy preparation to aim at this sort of level off that wind down the straight there at Flemington. She Shall Fly is flying, but I think needs a slightly softer race to be winning. Viridine's been up for a while, so I'd be risking it next start. I think Age of Chivalry is a beast. Yeah, you guys know how much I love this horse. It's a really, really nice type in a really good yard. I think Age of Chivalry probably be pretty competitive wherever it goes next start.
Okay, and we had a talking point out of Cranbourne yesterday.
Well, I got this from here, mate. Eureka Street yesterday, backed it. An hour after I backed it, change of tactics from the RV on Twitter, whatever they are, the stewards on Twitter, at RV stewards potentially. They intended to show intent. Now, the lesson out of this is we're not going to continue to harp on and complain about the change of tactics rule being a joke, which it is. What I want to articulate and sort of share to you all who are listening is that if you've got two bits of information about how you think a horse might be ridden tactically, you've got the change of tactics and you've got the market. Well, every day of the week, the market is going to fist the change of tactics. This is a horse that was going to be ridden with intent. They told us it was. But the market went from $3.80 out to $7 on a Sunday at Cranbourne. A horse that profiled like it should piss in here. Watch the Stewards Vision. We might try and get on the show. A lot of work to get that done. We've got Mark Shean on. It's been a big week. We'll see how we go. But head to racing.com. They've actually got the Stewards Vision up for this race. They don't have it up for a lot of the races at Caulfield on Saturday for whatever reason. Race 6, Cranbourne. You tell me how much intent J Mott's shown from barrier 1. He's then ended up sort of third last the fence. Awful situation to be in. Horse never got out. Horse never looked likely. I don't think it would have won. I'm not blowing about that. I'm just trying to articulate that the market is the teller of the truth always. Well, 9 times out of 10. Mm-hmm. When the change of tactics came through, I sort of thought this horse might start $3 and this is going to be a walk in the park. When the market went the other way, I resigned myself to that we were done. Not because of the market, but like because I knew the market would mean that the horse would be ridden backwards, back and buried, big weight, heavy track at Cranbourne. It's not a recipe for success. Have a look at it all. Read the Stewards report too, which is just again noise, just nothing in it. Like it's just they cop whatever these riders tell them. I've had enough of it. I only read them to make these shows. To be honest, I couldn't care less for them. But have a read of the Stewards report. Watch Stewards Vision. Tell me what you think on Twitter. Awful, disgusting.
Okay, well, we'll go for Betfair's best bets of the weekend. The biggest matched races around the country at Belmont. It was in the Newmarket. Race 7, 450,000 was matched. Caulfield, race 4, which was the race won by Think We're Due, $955,909 matched there. Eagle Farm will go to race 2, which was the event won by Kisukano. There was 560,000 matched there. Randwick, race 9, the race won by Not Faint Hearted, 640,000 matched in that event.
Rob Scurry was on that too.
He was. He had a great
day, Rob.
out there. Huge. He's back in big form, being on course. We're not jealous at all. Horses match pre-play. Some huge cash matched. Bronze medal goes to showmanship there in the last at Caulfield. 507,000 matched on him. Parlophone, 540,000 matched on that galloper. But then the winner by just streets, there pre-play on the weekend. Plain CL, $823,961 matched on that horse pre-play.
Wasn't that race fascinating? You both watched that race?
Yeah.
Like, we've back think we're due punters, movers, and then I've gone again from the yard, pray to good. Rolled across and led, thought perfect. When Ollie, the fucking goat, just sat outside us. Jeez, the sphincter was so tight.
Yep.
But then it just didn't even let down, really. Its last 200 was okay again, playing CL, but like the way the market was and the way the race was run, you just thought he's going to kill us here. I roared that home twice as hard because I was like, I feel like we sort of got it was up against the odds given the race shape.
Yeah. He was very reminiscent of when Plain Seal won at Moonee Valley when it settled outside the Shot of Irish. It was put into the race and just ridden far more aggressively.
It's becoming a horse that sort of half likes to be right in the snuffy, you know?
Yeah. And when it's going forward,
here we go again.
The other two horses were Sovereign at Caulfield and Clairvoyance, which was going around incredibly short at Belmont. They were the other two matched pre-play. In terms of in-play, the top three, in third place was actually one of my horses, and there was obviously nothing matched from me in play because I was absolutely terrified. Montalino at Belmont stood in the gate, missed it as $1.50 odd shot, was last on a day where you had to be forward and run. I was on the phone to a very good mate at the time just saying she's last. Like, she should be almost double figures the way the track's playing at this stage. Got to the outside, recorded the third fastest last 200 on the card off a slow tempo. She's like any really good woman. Just when she's really good, there is nothing better, and you just fail to process that level. But when she's bad, you don't want to be anywhere near her because she probably is going to kick you and break your jaw. Dicko, you were on in run, but on the lay side.
I was on the lay side. I laid her out to $1.90, and then that's probably a failing. And like something Curly and I have been talking about with my buttons, I probably should have had the ability to sort of level out, but as I tend to do, I decided to double back down. So I laid her out to $1.90, and I laid it all the way into like $1.05. I obviously didn't take all of the money that was there, but a lot of it. And like the market and the caller was just sickening. Like it was $4, and all of a sudden it was $1.10. It was like that. They don't move that fast in run ever. And it was like, oh, can it win? Oh fuck, it's won. Like it just picked them up. Like if you broke down like the 50-meter splits of that pony, I'd say it'd be like some elite behaviour.
She'll be backing up this Saturday, I believe, over 2,000 metres. That's the plan for the good girl. Second for in-play was Showmanship. Scary behaviour. Personal opinion, there was a lot of people saying how good was Pike riding it like the best horse. I actually thought it was a pretty timid ride.
It was a bad ride.
Yeah.
The horse was in a position where no horse won all day. He could have sat further forward.
Absolutely.
I think credit to you, though. Like, the market hated this horse, and you absolutely declared it. You don't declare horses almost ever. You fucking just stamp this thing as a winner.
It's a proper horse.
It is. It is a proper horse. It won like a proper horse.
Yep.
Last 200 metres of the day at Caulfield, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah. And the most matched in play was at Eagle Farm Curls, Joymaker. And it won, obviously.
Yeah, of course it won, because the market said it was win. And look, I know the overall figures of that race don't look ridiculous, but as far as the lead times on the I think it was 4.6 above the all average. But the horses that did actually finally work to the front by about the 1200, they had done a fair share of work, in run to sort of get there. So, it's just amazing. Once again, it's another great example of a horse that was one-way traffic in the market. The in-run suited it. And even the trainer after the race, post-race interview, said, I really wanted to win this race today because it's named after a lady who owned a lot of horses with me over the years before she passed away. So I really wanted to win it. So, voila, the punting gods and every racing god and Buddha and
Zeus
and everyone was
Harry
on.
Potter.
Everyone was on. It was
Bilbo
a
Baggins.
complete one-goer.
Pete,
So-
Belmont. Did we learn anything from Belmont? Did you learn anything from Belmont? Well done on a really fat week, mate. Huge Wednesday where you sort of Gloria Estefan me. I had probably the biggest day of my life, and yet to just hang on a second. I'm going to have 3 bets and fucking back 2 winners at 30-1. Well, thank you and fuck you at the same time. But you backed it up on Saturday. Big week, pistols flying. Learn anything though?
Yeah, clairvoyance is a real, I mean, we stamped it last start, and I mean, it went around at $1.20, but it's recorded 2 figures in a row now that have been best of the day in WA, and it's had 3 starts. I don't know where the horse is going to be aimed. Wouldn't surprise if they try to stretch her out to a mile and aim at the WA Guineas later in the year. But tell you what, its figures, its PB so far is only 2 lengths off the best at showmanship recorded in WA. Weight for age race over 1,200 coming up, Group 1, called the Winterbottom Stakes, worth $1 million. Should get in with 51.5 kilos, I think. You'd be tempted. She leads. That's all I'll say. I believe Haydoc's potentially going to have another crack at it. Well, yeah, he might have a little bit more competition this time for the lead.
Wonder who will ride. The biggest shins in racing won't be able to go to Perth, will he? They won't let you in. They better not let Bar End in. South African.
Not sure. Anyway, we did mention Shooter McGrady earlier in the card. He won both the Turtle and the Hare on the same day. Won both races. The ride on Saracino, it was too smart, and well done to the Gangemi team. Their clues were there all preparation. I backed it the first 2 starts. His prep over 1,000 was just snicked back towards last just to get a sit. Had trialled really well leading into those 2 starts, and then last start left it. It was an okay run, settling worst in midfield, but the jockey changed to Shooter McGrady, who, when he's riding with intent, he's one of the quickest out of the gates in WA. Step up to 1,200, and in a race where there didn't seem to be any defined leader, there was no change of tactics, but if you were paying attention, you probably could have got it, and I'm pretty angry at myself for not. Just far too good by that team. It was outstanding. They've recorded a strong early gallop in that race, the fastest of the day, and they've managed to hold on by a bee's diaphragm over Pims Royale, which I had a lash at. The favourite in the race, Free Trade, not sure exactly where it leaves it. It looked a bit big in condition from what I could gather on the screen. If anyone is there on course and wants to add further to that, I'd appreciate it. But Free Trade, it's a difficult horse to place. It's not quite a miler. It's not quite a 1,200 metre horse. Not sure where it will peak this prep. They're talking about a railway, but again, they might just struggle to get a real genuine mile for mine. That's about it out of WA. It was just a meeting.
All right, that's been the deep dive. Big show. This week, Peter, what are you doing this week?
Same thing we always do. Try and take over the world.
Where are you betting?
Belmont. Don't know where they're racing Thursday. I guess it's probably Pinjarra and Northam. Belmont again. Don't know where they're racing Sunday.
We've got 2 Syntho meetings today and tomorrow in Victoria, which I doubt we'll bet at. I think they had enough of those tracks. We'll be betting big on Wednesday at Sandown. I've seen the noms, and it looks like a really good meeting. Probably bet Friday at Bendigo, and then a big meeting at Moonee Valley on Saturday, which we won't be able to go to, which sucks, but we'll be betting at all the same. Curls, what's on for you this week?
We'll pick the eyes out of Ipswich Wednesday. I'll be on course at Gatton on Friday. We had
bit of Mounting Yard Mail from Curls.
We had a bit of success with the Mounting Yard Mail out of Gatton last week, purely because they're all maidens or benchmark 55 rated races. So it's very handy because only like 3 can win on form, and then only 2 can win on looks.
Yep.
At those low meetings, they're the ones to get to, I reckon. And then Saturday we have Doomben's the Metropolitan meeting, Toowoomba Saturday night. There'll be a sting there somewhere. Aquas Park Gold Coast during the afternoon, and then we'll pick the eyes out of the Sunny Coast on Sunday. So just relentless.
Sunny Coast Sunday. Well, I look forward to that. That is good. All right, boys. Big show. Mark Shean joins the mailbag. Who would have ever thought a couple of degenerates could build something that the great man would want to be part of? But it's happening.